Welcome to another episode of Real Estate Meets Finance, where we bridge the gap between property and money. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing a wonderful friend of mine and one of the obviously most awesome real estate agents in the industry. And
Thank
we're
you.
probably going to have a few laughs along the way, because I know Merilyn Nunno loves to laugh, so that'll be great. So Merilyn, welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you
Before
for
we
having
start, before we start, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into the business,
Sure.
what you're currently doing, who you're with.
Okay. So I've been in the business for, it'll be 20 years come May. I feel like I just kind of revealed my age there.
You look wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. I've been with Royal LePage since I started this journey very long time ago, full time. My partner and I, Adriano, have a small team. We run out of South Etobicoke. And very excited to be here. It's been a long journey, and I've seen all the ups and downs, and high interest rates come down again, and the market get very busy, and then all of a sudden interest rates rising again. So 20 years in the business, we've seen it all almost.
Yeah, for sure. And in that time, I'm sure that the markets have been volatile, and whether your consumers are either buying or selling. We never really know. A lot of questions arise. When is a good time to sell? When is a good time to buy? So we'll sort of dive into that a little bit more. But one of the questions I like to ask you is a lot of the homeowners tend to decide whether or not to sell or stay in their current home. How do you, as a real estate agent, help them to decide whether or not they should sell or whether they should stay? There's factors that obviously affect their decision. But when you're talking to somebody who is thinking of wanting to sell, what would some of the pointers be as to why they should or why they shouldn't?
So I always like to kind of take the approach that real estate is always a decision where, like, what is the reason behind we want to sell? So we look at that first. There's always going to be reasons that are, more than just, well, I want a bigger home, or, I maybe want to move in the area, but I want something a little bit closer to my child's school or transit, those types of things. So those aren't, let's say, the bigger, more serious factors, like I have to relocate for work, or, unfortunately there's divorces, there's deaths, or fortunately for divorce, but there's different reasons why I think people will always have major life events. Families are growing, families need to downsize. I need to move with my parents because they're elderly and they're ill. And that's just a decision that we've made that I think is, suitable for our family and our situation. So again, depending on the reason, and then of course there's always, as you know, there's always financial reasons as well. We have had, especially in this last couple of years, people that hold investment properties that, with interest rates rising and the mortgages, being higher, and then the, condo maintenance fees and taxes going up, financially, if it just puts stress on their family, then obviously that's another thing. We want to help people.
With the interest rates having been so volatile over the last year and a half, and prices having dropped for sure, but at the same time over the last few years, but now all of a sudden we had seen the interest rate surge, interest rates gone down, the volatility, the unaffordability of a lot of the borrowers that are coming into market looking to move outside of the GTA. What are some of the areas that you're seeing that have sort of become the hotspot of folks moving out of Toronto?
Okay.
And the second question would be is the hybrid model that has been offered from a lot of the employers. Do you see a lot of folks moving outside of the GTA because now they're able to work at home, and affordability has become much more affordable outside of the GTA?
So yes, of course, we're actually seeing a lot of people, like Guelph area, the West End is going into natural multiple offers. We're seeing a lot of that happening. And also, of course, we saw a lot more of, people wanting to move out of the city during COVID, of course, because there was a lot more stay home, work from home. People didn't have to do the commute. Let's say they were working into the city and having to drive in and dealing with traffic and that extra time for the commute in and out to and from work. We are also seeing, believe it or not, certain pockets in Vaughan, which is, not that far outside the city. Because I think when you look at, let's say you have a house that's, in Toronto, a detached, you'll probably have a single car garage. Let's say it's 2.1 million. What people are doing is they're like, okay, well, if I move to, Vaughan or even Schaumburg or Alliston with, even 1.8, they're able to get now a double car garage. They're getting a bigger backyard. They actually are in a family friendly neighborhood. They're not dealing with a lot that comes, I live in the city, as I'm sure you do, as I know you do as well. And we're dealing with all that, that energy and that, sirens and, busyness of the city and the traffic. So we are having a lot of clients that are actually wanting to not necessarily downsize, but look at, again, affordability. If I sell for, 2.1, 2.2, well, maybe I can, put a little money aside because we are seeing also a lot of people that are thinking about their futures and wanting to, with the economy and life just being expensive, they want to put some money aside to help their kids for the future, whether it's for, school or whether it is to help them eventually one day buy a property. So we are seeing a lot of that. And we are seeing certain areas north of the city, as well as west of the city that are, very popular right now.
Okay, great advice. So there's a lot of, there's many consumers that become very unsure of whether or not they should sell. So one of the questions that often comes up is it a right time to sell? Is it the right time to sell? Well, the interest rates are high, and we don't have, there's not a lot of interest in wanting to buy right now. So if I'm the customer and I come to you and I say, look, I'm unsure if whether or not we should sell right now. Is it a good market? How do you guide them with something like that? If there's a little bit of uncertainty, like what would be your advice to them?
Whether or not it's a good time to
Yeah,
sell?
whether a good time to sell.
So I think, again, it all goes back to the reason as to why do we want to sell. Again, if it's a reason where it's one of the top ones, like the major factors that we discussed, then of course it's always a good time to sell if it's like putting a price tag on happiness, right? But again, if it's an area or if it's a pocket that, let's say, for example, right now, perfect example, the condo market is a little bit slower. So we have inventory that's been sitting on the market. It's staged. It looks good, it's clean, it's updated, it's priced right, and it's just been sitting for longer. So I think it also, again, depends on if we, had this conversation, I would say, well, Anthony, if you want to sell your condo, I just want to put the expectation up front that it might not be the best time to sell, which is the exact conversation I've had with some of my clients as well, letting them know that up front. And then also letting them know, well, if you really want to choose to, we can try that, then letting them know that it is going to take longer to sell. So having patience and understanding that it's not going to happen overnight, like it was happening, a couple years back when you just, list a property and list it under, and then all of a sudden a week later you have, 7, 8, 9, 10 offers and it's sold within a week, right? So I think understanding the situation and being able to just help guide them and navigate and understand their why is usually, for me, obviously doing a comparison as well and looking, from when they purchased it, if, there's a lot of equity there and they, want to use that money for something that's important for them, then obviously if the numbers make sense, usually that's the deciding factors that we have to be able to hit the sweet spot. Then it makes being able to decide and move forward a lot easier. Yeah,
and I think that's where we come in as sort of guide the purchasers as to what they can afford. And
that's right.
Whether they're buying a multi-unit, whether they're buying single-family dwelling or whatnot. I know nowadays there's a lot of the borrowers, a lot of the purchasers out there hoping that they can find a finished basement, that extra income that they can use to help qualify for the mortgage, given the unstableness of the interest rates over the last year. There's a question that I've been asking a lot of the partners who've come on our show, and I'm going to ask the same question again. Sure. What are your thoughts when somebody is selling a home on staging the home? Is it the right thing to do? Would you recommend staging a home, or is it just, it just says, hey, it's okay, we'll clean it out, we'll declutter, and it's okay?
I mean, if I'm walking into somewhere that's, there's no furniture at all. I can envision, and some of us have that we're more visual and we're able to kind of see, and for floor plan and layout and where we would put all our furniture. But not everyone is like that, right? So it's nice when you have at least like the basics, like your living room, let's say your dining room, your bedrooms, just kind of gives that feel when you walk into, take for example, like new home sales center, the builder, they always have that one, unit, if it's a condo or if it's a house that's fully upgraded and they have it furnished and all the pillows are perfect with the little crease in the middle and, you got the matching throws. It just gives you that feel, that wow factor. And I think that you always want to, when you're selling, you always want to be the one that stands out, right? So when you're looking at something that's, let's say, a little dated and it's vacant, it's not going to give us that, most of home buyers, they start their search. Actually, it's a fact that there was a survey, and 63% of home buyers, especially now, they start their search online. So we want to be able to stand out when we're going to hit the market, and you want to be able to really appeal to, most buyers out there. So when the home is staged, whether it is real furniture, obviously that's better for a walkthrough, or even digital staging. If, let's say, for example, there's a property and maybe there's a tenant there, so you can't move the furniture, and then some rooms are vacant. There's ways that we can do digital staging. I think it does at least give a visual. And think about, again, like we were saying, when you walk in a sales center, they give you those booklets and they have all the nice renderings, and, they show you the floor plans, but then they'll also show you pictures that always have like furniture and like the amenities, what they look like, right? So I think people buy based on emotion a lot of the time. So when it looks good and it's, it smells good, it's a welcoming environment, it's like, ooh, I like this. I could see myself here. And then, usually that's a positive for sure.
For sure. So, when when you're looking for homes, a lot of the borrowers are out there, and obviously everybody wants to get the best deal, right? Everybody,
everybody wants a deal. I hear that all the time. Everybody wants a deal.
Everybody wants the deal. So, and if I'm the purchaser and I come to Merilyn Nunno, and I'm looking for your professional opinion, how can you help me in not overpaying for a home?
So that's where I think it's important to have a strong partner on your side, a realtor or mortgage person that's going to be able to do the research. I think that's very important. Also, I don't want my clients ever to get in a situation where it's a bad situation. So getting pre-approved with someone like Anthony or someone on your team, or of course, doing the research in the neighborhood. So if we know that we're working with a budget, let's just say of 1.5, and then our hard stop should be 1.5, or even let's say 1.4 as a buffer because there's double land transfer tax, lawyer fees, moving costs. For the most part, I think knowing this is our hard stop number and doing the research to support that, and obviously, again, working within your budget as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's key. I don't think this is, we're trying to reinvent the wheel here, but certainly for the borrowers who are out there, the first advice I would give them is get pre-approved.
Of course,
speak to your realtor. Obviously, in this case, yourself, you're the professional. Try to iron out or understand what areas they're looking for and what have you, especially if they're first-time buyers, right? If they're first-time buyers. So get pre-approved. It's so important because only then can you know what you're going to qualify for, what is within your means to be able to afford, and then that's when the professional like yourself comes in and shows them what area and probably the type of home that they're looking for. So that's awesome. Last question.
Sure.
If you had to your most ideal customer, the most ideal customer.
I have a few that come to mind.
Yeah. And we don't need to name any names, but if you're on your cousin, what would that look like for a realtor?
I think someone who knows what they want, and someone that, again, we know what kind of budget we're looking for. So it's so important to get pre-approved and to know, how much money do we have to spend, right? Because sometimes if you're out there and you're looking at something and you fall in love, but really we can't, it's never going to happen. It's kind of like,
it becomes a heartbreak. It becomes a heartbreak, right? Just like anything else, it becomes a heartbreak.
Yeah, it's a heartbreak, and then it's nothing else compares, right? So I think definitely just, knowing how much, your timeline as well.
Right.
So I think a lot of times where we kind of give ourselves like a realistic timeline to work with, this is kind of the date that I want to move by. Yeah. So it comes back to, like, again, where, when, why, and what it is that we're looking for. So I think once you have all those questions answered, it just makes it a lot more easier. And it's then the fun part starts. It's exciting. Anthony gets you pre-approved. Merilyn helps you find your dream home, and
That's it. All's great in the world, right? Awesome. Before we call this a wrap, let's tell viewers where can they find a little bit more about yourself? Obviously, the markets that you work in, but more importantly, your professional advice. Where can they find you?
Yes, so of course on Google, I have a profile and a website. And of course, you can see some of my current inventory. We have quite a bit of inventory right now under Merilyn Nunno. Also Instagram, of course, AM Realty Group. That's our Instagram handle. We have a lot of information and different things on there as well.
It was a pleasure. I do appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
This wraps up another episode of Real Estate Meets Finance. Thank you all, and we'll see you again soon. My name is Anthony Contento. I'm with Sherwood Mortgage Group, and we appreciate you viewing.